Do you struggle seeing the lines on your ruler when you're cutting? Maybe it's because you're cutting a busy fabric, or possibly the non-skid surface on your ruler makes it a little difficult to see those lines. Hi, I'm Mary from Joyful and Mary Quilting, and I was introduced to this great product by one of our Joyful and Mary Quilters, Denise. Thank you, Denise. It is called the SpotOn Dot Magnifying Lens Set by Gypsy Quilter. If you're struggling with seeing those lines on your ruler and you want to make sure that you have a good, straight, accurate cut, these little discs solve that problem in a simple, easy, and inexpensive way. I'm going to show you what I discovered when using these magnifying dots with my 4.5 inch, my 6.5 inch, and my 8.5 inch Creative Grids rulers, as well as my Quilters Select non-skid surface ruler. First, let's talk about the dots. Here's the box that they come in. We open it up and we have a small and a large dot. They each have on the back a rubbery adhesive that is a circle that completely goes around the dot that you will place on your ruler. So what I'll do is, with a little bit of pressure, you stick it to the ruler, you center it in the area where you need the magnification. I feel like my Creative Grids rulers and my Quilters Select rulers actually work really well and they are well marked. But there are some occasions when I just need a little better view. And these SpotOn Dot Magnifiers are really helpful. The adhesive edge right here can actually get a little linty and then it loses some of its adhesiveness. So all you need to do then, according to the company, is just wash it with a little mild soap, let them dry, and then they're good as new and they stick again. So on those occasions where we need to do a little bit of magnification of a particular area, depending on our ruler, here are my 3 suggestions. But please let me know in the comment section if you can think of any additional uses for these particular SpotOn Dot magnifiers, or how you can use them with your rulers that I haven't thought about. Now, I'm going to tell you something that'll gross some people out, but I do have trouble with this moving. Even when I push it down, it doesn't always stay down. So what I did was I just lick my finger and I run it around the edge, and then when I place it down, it holds it in place. So if you're having trouble with it coming loose, that's a remedy that works. If it grosses you out to lick your finger, just dip your finger in a little bit of water or something, or have a baby wipe nearby and you can just run it around the edge and then place it down onto the ruler. So let's try them out. First of all, I'm going to use my 4.5 inch ruler, my small ruler, and I am going to actually cut from this piece of fabric a 1.5 inch square. Doing that, I'll take my 1.5, this is actually about a 2 inch, I'm going to place my 1.5 inch marking on the fabric. Now this is where I'm saying, depending on the fabric you're using and the color of your cutting mat, it may be difficult to see this line. So this is where I can use, actually I can probably use the small dot, and I will place that right over that area where I need magnification. And now when I look, I actually can see that I'm a little bit off, that I really need to move my ruler just a tad in order to get that square. We can also take a look with the larger one, which I think the larger one works really well. And I'm going to place that, a little bit of pressure, and I can see that I've done a really good job lining it up. I can actually, with the larger one, I can see more, and I can make sure that my square is right so that when it's time to cut, I can just trim here and here, and I know I have an accurate 1/2 inch square. And you know those 1/2 inch squares are tiny. So there we go. I've cut my square, and if I take a look just for a little double check, look at that. I've got a really accurate cut there. So that's just cutting a square. So let's take a look and just see how we did. I'm going to line this up just as I did before. And you can see right here in the magnifying area, I've got that lined up perfectly, and I have a perfect 1.5 inch square cut. I'm not off in the least little bit. And when we're cutting very small squares, it gets more crucial to make sure that we have that accurate cut. So this one was good. But let's move on to a 1/2 square triangle. Now, in using a 1/2 square triangle, I've already got one ready to go, but it hasn't been trimmed. I'm going to place my ruler, my diagonal line, and let's cut this to 2.5 inches. So again, the 2.5 inch mark, although it's pretty clear on here, it's a little difficult to see. So what we're going to do is, looking at it this way, I'm hoping that I have everything lined up right. So let's take a look by putting our magnifier on. And we're going to actually, again, like I said, center that. A little pressure. And there we can see we can move the ruler just a teeny bit to make sure that we have our diagonal lined up. We have our edges lined up with the markings on the ruler, and it's just so much easier to see. Then, now that I have that placed, I can make my cut on this edge. And there I have my 2.5 inch half square triangle. So if we line that up, we've cut this edge off, trimmed it up to 2.5 inches, and we can see right here, this gives us that double check of, yep, we did pretty good. So that one's good. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about these little center intersections on a 4-patch block or any block that you're using. We want to make sure that this block, it actually measures 4 inches, but we want it trimmed to 3.5. So what's half of 3.5? 1 3/4. So we know the 1 3/4 mark on our ruler going in each direction needs to be right here in the center. 1 3/4 is a little bit of an odd marking, and it's not necessarily on your ruler going to be one that shows up easily. So if we look on this ruler, here's my 1 3/4, and going across we have 1 3/4 this direction, 1 3/4 this direction. What we're wanting to know is this lined up? So let's take a look. We put the disc on there, little pressure, and we take a look, and it's a little crooked. So I'm going to straighten that out. Now I can see it really well. And once it's straightened out, then I can take the disc off or just leave it, and I can do my trimming. So this works well for this. But what about the Quilters Select ruler? Remember, we have that opaque look to the ruler. So again, the lines are very thin, and it's not always easy to see. We still want to line up that 1 3/4 inch marking, and it is right here, but it is really hidden, and honestly, I am having trouble seeing that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my disc once again. I'm going to center it over that area and push it down. And now I can see exactly what I'm doing, and I can mark that. Now it is right in the center. Then I'm going to take my cutter, do just as I did before, trim up these 2 edges, and then spin it and do the same thing going the other direction. So if I do this, I have those cut. Then I'm going to turn it around. Once again, remember that 1 3/4 inch marking needs to be right in the center. And I have it in the center here, and I can see it so easily with my disc. Again, you can take the disc off if you want, if you're not afraid you're going to move everything, but I just leave it. And there we have that beautiful trimmed 4-patch to 3.5 inches. We know it's exact. So that worked really well on the Quilters Select and on the Creative Grids 6.5 inch ruler. The last thing I want to show you is with the larger Creative Grids ruler. They have a feature that I really love, and it's the center. The center of the ruler is marked. I'm on my Creative Grids rotating mat. And right here, the center is of the 8.5 inch by 8.5 inch square ruler is marked with a circle. So you know right there, that's where that is. But here's where the problem comes into play. When I am using fabrics, depending on light or dark, sometimes that little circle gets hidden in the fabric and I can't see it easily. So for example, this is a 4-patch we'll trim. It's not 8.5 inches, but that's what we want it to be. So I'm going to take that little center circle and I'm going to place it right in the intersection of our 4 squares. Now you can see I've got it lined up here, here, here. It looks pretty good to me from this direction. If I place my magnetic dot right there in the center, then I can see, oh, it's a little bit up on one side, so I'm just going to adjust it a tiny bit, and now I'm good to go. I know that I have everything lined up. Like I said, you can take this off then if you want, and you can cut, but you know you have everything lined up here. This was pretty easy to see because I have a dark color against a light color. The issue that we can have is when we have fabrics that are lighter, that it's more difficult to see that white line. So I'm going to show you, as you can see, my little circle, that 4 1/4 inch by 4 1/4 inch circle really disappears on this lighter fabric. So I do have it. It looks like it's lined up to me, but honestly, I'm having a real hard time seeing it. So what I will do is place my dot right on the top, and then it's almost like it just appears. So now that I look at it, I can see where that is. And once again, I'm in a little awkward position here, so I'm trying not to get my head in the view, but you can see that I've got it lined up, and then I can actually do my trimming. I can turn my mat and I can trim the other edge, and it is good to go. That's how I use the SpotOn Dot Magnifiers. As I said before, let me know in the comments if you can think of any additional ways that we could put these to good use, or how you might make them even more functional and accurate in your quilting experience. They're not something that I need to use all the time, but when I do have a trouble spot, I find that they work well. The link to this product is in the description if you're interested. I am always trying to be joyful, but I will always be merry. Thank you so much for watching.